I don't care what you believe in. Charlie Kirk did not deserve to die. And now my best wishes go to his family, especially his wife and children, who will now have to grow fatherless because some crazy person decided to kill somebody else. And that's just atrocious and should never, ever happen. I'm doing this with a script, mind you, just to ensure that I give a fair and moderate point of view as possible. I'm going to try not to edit as much as possible as well. To try to keep it as raw and real. I want to highlight all the sides in this debate and in this situation, and I want to spark a healthy conversation, a moderate one, right, where we actually, respect each other and we try to approach this with an open mind. Okay, that's the aim I have with this channel, and the reason why I had to just record this video in a rush instead of the one that I already had planned to begin with. I do think that he was a very controversial figure, but credit where credit's due. I mean, he was an extremely successful podcaster, an influence to many young people, someone who truly stood for what he believed in. I mean, he died for his beliefs. He was a man of principle, regardless of whether you agreed with those principles or not. It's something you can't take away, right? These are objective facts. He also represented a very loud minority, and I mean minority in the sense of representation and how much attention they're given, not necessarily in terms of numbers, but he represented that loud majority of people who grew up being fed the woke agenda, right? He was basically spearheaded the counterculture movement of our time, akin to how the hippies in the 60s did against the war and all the conservative and family values they had been fed when they grew up themselves, right? However, he did play with fire. He lived in that constant controversy. That was his whole shtick, and he also knew that there was a risk to what he did, especially putting yourself out there in front of a crowd of thousands of people, who all have that right to bear arms that you so vehemently defend it, right? And so, yes, he died for that Second Amendment right. However, also he did mention that there is a price to that Second Amendment right, and that price being death. And this guy said it right after a school shooting. So we can't really pretend he was a saint either. Okay, I don't want to glorify him either. I just want to try to present the facts. I've seen a lot of people call for empathy as well, which is funny because he himself, Charlie Kirk, said that empathy is a weakness and an invention. So, it kind of brings a bit of hypocrisy in that sense. And let's also not forget that just a couple of months ago, a Minnesota legislator and her husband were shot to death for their views. These guys were left-leaning. And I mentioned this because a lot of people I've seen were saying, oh, the violence only comes from the left. And that's just objectively not true. Okay, obviously there are radicals and extremists on both sides, and this is just awful. No matter who gets killed, and hopefully nobody else gets killed. But I hate to have to report on this kind of thing. Again, violence comes from both sides, as sad as that is. And in any case, being killed because of your beliefs is not a sign of a healthy democracy. It is not fair, and it is something that is just purely and simply abhorrent. Okay, we should all be saddened by these news every time that it happens. It also deeply saddens me to see the US come to this. Right, for his death to get so much attention when there's so many other things in the world going wrong that I think deserve a lot more, spotlight. There was a school shooting happening right around the same time in Colorado, and I don't see many news about that. But that's because it's just not partisan, right? It doesn't drive clicks, it doesn't drive controversy, it doesn't drive, the debate that and the clicks and again all the attention that the media wants to garner. It's just another school shooting. It's just, our day-to-day now. I don't know. I'm most worried about the repercussions and the aftermath of this whole thing. I really hope that we will not get retaliation, or direct retaliation as the outcome. And I do implore that people please stop with the inflammatory rhetoric on both sides, because it just comes to this. Like, people celebrating his death are doing the exact same that Charlie Kirk was doing for the right. It's just as bad, both sides. Trust me, like it's celebrating another man's death is a punishment that should be reserved for very few humans. I don't think like more than a handful of people, right, that have done truly atrocious things. Charlie Kirk was not one of them. No matter, if you agreed or not with his views. So let's take this as an opportunity to see the greys in between the black and white, to understand other sides, because there are many sides. It's not just red or blue or black or white. It's not just two sides. It's many. Humans are multifaceted, and I want the conversation to try to go back to that, to try to open your mind and understand others, and just be there to grow as a person and as a human being, and not just, promote this tribalism and this labeling that has grown so much of late. And, as much as Charlie Kirk was an extremist and, contributed to this, I'm sure that he was also very kind, that he was a leader to many others, and someone that many people looked up to, right? So that's one of the sides that I also want to highlight, that I want people to remember about this whole thing. And I just also want to reiterate that I wish the best for all those around him. I'd also love to know your opinions in the comments. I just ask you that you be civil, that you be open-minded, that you be respectful, and that you bring objective arguments to the debate and the conversation. I want for everyone to contribute, and for us to go back to a more moderate and a more, civil, way of behaving and seeing the world, and not so much this extremism, right? I hope that my next video can be on a more positive topic. I just wanted to make sure that I covered this, as it happened, and to be, there when not 3 weeks later. However, again, I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you, if you believe in the same way that people are more than just labels and more than what media tries to label them into and just classify them as this or that. If you believe that's the case, then please do subscribe, do follow. I'll be uploading more videos like this, and again, I hope the next one is more positive. I just wanted to cover this real quick, and to try to bring that moderate point of view to the debate.